Step 1. Detach motor, torque limiter. Begin by removing the 4 bolts holding the motor mounting plate to the rope reel body. Next, slide the motor out of the torque limiter, being careful not to drop the keyways out of the main drive shaft. Depending on the age of the system, there will be 1 or 2 keyways. Finally, remove the bolt on the torque limiter and slide it off. Be careful not to lose the keyway. Step 2. Remove top half of mechanism. For recessed units, this includes the brackets and brake assembly. First, remove the cross-arm bolts and nuts. On the motor side of the cage, loosen the 2 nuts on the inside next to the torque limiter. On the rope reel side, loosen the 2 nuts closest to the drive shaft on each side of the housing. Remove the nuts and bolts holding the 2 halves of the cage together. Remove the screws and/or nuts holding the cage to the walls of the box. Finally, remove the top half of the cage. Lift the roll tube and rope reel together away from the mechanism. Step 3. Disassemble the shifting mechanism. First, remove the bushing. Pull the rope reel out of the roll tube cone. Note the 2 remaining bushings, 1 small, 1 large, in the rope reel. Next, remove the large black bushing in the rope reel by driving the main shaft through the rope reel with a hammer. Be careful not to lose the 2 small shifting springs and caps as you push the shaft out of the rope reel. Now is a good time to clean the old grease and any buildup out of the gear housing. Step 4. Changing single dog gears. If the single dog gear teeth are rounded, you need to replace them. If they are in good condition, we recommend leaving them, as the bolts holding them can sometimes break. Using a socket with a 3/16" Allen wrench and a 6" extension, remove the shifting dog inside the rope reel. Note, if the screws do not readily loosen, it may be necessary to heat the gear with a torch before removing the screw. Be careful not to apply too much torque, as it is possible to break the screw off. Install the new gear, using red Loctite on the screws. Do the same with the shifting gear on the end of the drive cone. It is imperative that all screws be Loctite treated to avoid them coming out. Apply fresh grease to the inside of the rope reel. 2 to 3 pumps will suffice. Do not overgrease. Step 5. Reinstall the double dog gear in the rope reel. The side of the gear rod with the hole should go into the rope reel first. Do not forget to install the shifting springs. Your gear will not shift properly without them. While holding the shifting springs in place, with the rope reel on its end, use a small flat blade screwdriver to push the shifting springs in and then push the shaft completely into the rope reel. Slide the large black bushing over the gear rod into the rope reel. Carefully turn the rope reel to the other side and insert the small bushing until fully seated. Step 6. Reinstall rope reel onto roll tube cone. When reinstalling the 2 black bushings, the flat parts on the bushings must match up with the flat parts in the housing. Ensure they are facing up. The larger side of the bushing nearest the motor must be away from the rope reel. Reinstall the top of the cage and anchor it to the sides of the box. Check carefully to ensure that the two halves of the housing are tight together when fully assembled. Step 7. Reinstall torque limiter and motor. When installing the torque limiter, insert the keyway onto the shaft. Reinstall the bolts into the torque limiter. Do not over-tighten. Ensure the main shaft is all the way into the round part of the torque limiter housing. If it isn't, the unit will not shift properly. When installing the motor, make sure that the key is in the keyway. Finally, reinstall the 4 bolts holding the motor mounting plate to the rope reel body.